The views expressed in this podcast are my own and those of my guests. They do not represent or reflect those of UCSF Health or my professional and clinical roles there. The content is intended for informational purposes only and is not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional for specific medical guidance. Welcome back to In the Loop with Nadja Wlasiuk. Today's episode is deeply personal. My guests are my oldest daughter, Lydia, and her partner, Nick, a 35-year-old musician with the rock and roll band, the Honey Hounds. Nick was recently diagnosed with the very rare and aggressive cancer. What started as a stubborn sinus infection quickly became something far more serious. Together, we talk about how easily symptoms can be minimized or dismissed, what it's like to fight for answers, and the emotional and practical realities of navigating a rare diagnosis that has brought them all the way from their home in Jacksonville, Florida, to New York City for treatment. As a nurse practitioner, this conversation really made me pause. It reminded me how quickly we can default to routine thinking, and how crucial it is that we listen. We really listen to what our patients are telling us. Sometimes the details that sound minor to us are the signals that change everything. This episode isn't just about medicine. It's about persistence, partnership, and hope. It's about the power of love and advocacy when life changes overnight. If you'd like to help support Nick's care, you'll find links in the show notes to his GoFundMe and to the Honey Hounds on Spotify. Every stream, share, and donation truly helps as they navigate life between Jacksonville and New York for treatment. I'm so grateful to Lydia and Nick for their honesty and courage in sharing their story. Let's get in the loop. Nick, can you share a little bit about yourself?
I am a 35-year-old musician. I play in a rock and roll band called Honey Hounds,
Sweet.
and we release music on Spotify.
Have you ever struggled with sinus or health issues before?
Not really. I've been overall generally healthy my whole life with no issues.
That's amazing. So what were the very first symptoms that you noticed?
I had a sinus infection, and this one I've had sinus infections in the past, but this one was different because it didn't go away. So that was my first warning, I guess, that something maybe wasn't right.
And this started in May, right?
Yes, I believe so. I had this little sinus infection, and then I gave myself some time, some grace, because I also got sick like a week or so later. And then I said, well, any idea of the sinus infection going away now, I can probably forget about it because now I have a head cold. So then I waited even longer. Me and a few of the boys in the band had this head cold thing. And as we all started to recover from that, my sinus infection remained. And that's what was so concerning.
And then you went to urgent care. And what did they say? Just it was a sinus infection?
Well, what made me go to the urgent care was I felt some sort of inflamed soft tissue in my sinus passage, I guess. And when I was clearing my nose, I could feel it. Like something up there felt like it was dangling. So I said, I need to probably go to an ENT just to make sure. Well, at the very least, because my drummer was experiencing similar symptoms, and he went to the urgent care and they got him on antibiotics, and he cleared up right away and he was normal again after that. Now, I went to the urgent care and told them what was going on, and I asked for antibiotics, and they said, we don't think you have a bacterial infection. I don't think you need to be on antibiotics. You have something else going on. And she wanted me to do saline rinses, and she told me she was going to send me a referral to the ENT.
Okay. And that's in May.
That was in May, yeah. And then I never got my referral to the ENT, so I ended up making my own appointment at the ENT's office. And I went there and I got a CT scan, and I got to see this mass. They were calling it a mass. And they said, this does not look cancerous. This looks like a benign tumor. And we see these sometimes, but we're not going to be able to biopsy that here in the office because it's vascular in nature. And we're not equipped to deal with all the blood that this could put you in the hurt locker because we don't really have the resources here to stop all the bleeding. I said, okay, well, I'm supposed to go to Greece for a 4 week long run of shows in Greece with the band. Am I going to be safe to travel for and put this on hold for another month or so? And they said, yeah, sure, it's fine. Just don't drink too much because it could cause inflammation, which is true.
Hmm.
Um, so they gave me the okay to leave. I should have not gone. I should have just said, I don't feel comfortable traveling with this in my face. But I ended up going because I had this trip planned for a while, and it was a journey that I wanted to make for a long time, and I finally got it. And I was excited to go to Greece and see all the places. You know,
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody in the band took their girlfriends, right?
everybody took their girlfriends. My drummer brought his fiance. We had a great time. It felt like a family vacation almost. You know,
Awesome.
and yeah, it was a beautiful time. So far, one of the best times I've ever had in my life. And I was super happy to bring Lydia with me because she had never traveled like that far outside the country, or if at all. I can't remember if she's ever done that before. I made her get her passport.
Yeah, you did. I remember her getting it.
I was super excited for her to come along and share that experience with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to circle back to something that you said. You said they told you it was okay to go to Greece. And now looking back, you wish you hadn't. But at the time, did you feel reassured when they told you like you could go, even though you knew you had like this mass? Or what were you feeling at the time?
I was kind of shocked they said it was okay because looking at the CT scans, I was like, this mass in my face looked massive. And the ENT was not really overall impressed with it. He was like, "Oh, this is fine. I don't really know what it is, but I'm gonna give you the okay to go. Like, I don't think it'll grow that much in a month's time." Well, he was wrong about that too because every week it felt like it got bigger and bigger. At one point on the ship, I had complete 100% blockage, zero airflow out of my left nostril.
My gosh, that must have been scary.
Yeah, so I kept doing the saline rinses.
Hmm.
And I wanna say by the second week, I stopped doing the saline rinses because the water stopped going out the other nostril.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was very scary, so I said, "Maybe I should stop doing this because now I'm just where's all this water going? I'm just dumping it in my face and it's not leaving."
I know you said it didn't come out the other side, but did it ever come back out the side you put it in, or did it go back down your throat, or you're like, I don't know where it went?
Yeah, some of it went down the back of my throat and allowed me to spit it out,
Hmm.
but not all of it. So I said, "This is concerning, so I'm not gonna do this anymore."
That's good intuition.
Yeah, because 'cause I'm like, "This is becoming like a magic trick. I can make water disappear now," at this point.
Yeah. You're a magician and a musician.
Yeah, yeah, I'm both, and, you know, I didn't do much research because I was scaring myself by researching it,
Yeah.
but I also experienced a little bit of spotting. Not a lot, but I was
Hmm.
bleeding a little bit every other day, we'll say. When I would go
Hmm.
to gently clear my nose with tissue paper, I would get, like, pink mucus, which means that there's a little bit of blood in there too,
Hmm.
and sometimes I would get a very light nosebleeds, but not crazy nosebleeds, but I would definitely fill up a couple tissue papers with some blood. Not like thick, dark blood, just a little bit of blood, which is a warning sign. That's not good either.
Yeah, you shouldn't be consistently having that. And you already knew there was a mass there and that it was pretty vascular. So that makes sense. But at the same time, it shouldn't be happening.
Right. And it didn't make me feel any better either. So also, um, even before I left for Greece, I was not really
Mhm.
sleeping at this point because I was surviving off of one healthy nostril. When I got to
Ugh.
Greece, my left nostril was basically non existent. It didn't work anymore. So I was only getting 1 to 2 hours of sleep a night because I'm not really a mouth breather. I struggle to breathe through my mouth and go to sleep because it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was yeah, not sleeping basically. So I was always tired.
That sounds miserable. I think you told me once that you got scared because your other nostril got blocked.
Yes, but according to all the research I did, it seemed to me like I was overworking my right nostril. Residual inflammation is possible when you're dealing with sinus issues like this. And I just
Mhm.
assumed that, well, since the left one's not working at all, the right one is being overworked. And I guess it makes sense at some point or another they'll both swell up, you know? So I assumed that's what it was. I stumbled upon this little hack
Hmm.
where I would go on YouTube and I would watch like sad animal videos. I think what I was typing in the search bar was dog's last day. And
Oh
this
my
was
gosh.
people, yeah, treating their dog to a really fantastic last day on earth, taking them to the beach, feeding them ice cream and hamburgers and giving their dog the best possible last day on earth they could give them. And it made me so emotional and I would cry really hard. And when I cried, it would give me a few hours relief. The right nostril, the one that I needed to go to sleep, would open up and it would clear me out for just long enough to get a little bit of sleep. And this worked, I want to say, for 2 or 3 days in a row. And then eventually my body got used to this and then it stopped working. So then I was back trying to find other remedies.
Yeah, but talk about a workaround, Nick. Good for you. I'm proud of you for
I mean,
figuring that out.
yeah, I thought I discovered fire. I wanted to go on the internet and be like, everybody who struggles with sinus issues, this is your answer.
Hey, if you can get a little bit of relief so you can get some sleep and feel better, why not?
That's what it was, and I was making myself cry as much as I could at night, get some rest because not sleeping was one of the more painful aspects of the whole ordeal.
Yeah, sleep is such a driver in our overall health and mental health, physical health, all of that, that had to really be starting to drive you crazy.
Literally, I felt like this is I imagine how they torture people when they want to get information out of them, just not allow you to sleep because it's like affecting my emotions. I was so frustrated.
Mm.
I was getting very temperamental because of all this, and I just felt always run down because I wasn't sleeping. I haven't slept in months. I already have a hard time sleeping as it is because I stay up late and wake up early, so I'm not really getting a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
And this was like, I mean, Lydia can tell you she had to listen to me complain about this every night because I'm just so sleepy. I'm so exhausted. I want to sleep so bad, and
Mhm.
you're just not able to because you can't breathe.
Well, outside of not being able to breathe, did you experience any pain with it?
It wasn't really that painful. There were some days where I'd have kind of like a pressure headache, but that wasn't too often. I also cut out coffee from my diet because I didn't want to make it any harder to sleep than I already was, so I stopped drinking coffee, and that was the worst 3 days because when you drink coffee every day, you don't realize it, but the caffeine that you take in every day, it keeps the migraines away. So I stopped drinking
Oh.
coffee cold turkey, and then I just had a terrible, terrible migraine for 2 days in a row. By the 3rd day, I said, "I don't think these migraines are coming from these sinus issues, I think it's coming from lack of caffeine." And sure enough, on the 3rd day, waking up with that powerful headache, I said, "I can't do this anymore. I gotta have a cup of coffee," I think. And like magic, after
Yeah.
1 cup of coffee, the pain instantly was gone. After 2 cups of coffee, I actually felt good again.
Good. Well, I'm glad you did that. Hi, Lydia.
Hello.
So, Lydia, you called me before Nick and you left for Greece because you were concerned about him still having the sinus infection and feeling kind of like the urgent care isn't really listening because Nick's 35 years old and he's robustly healthy. And they're just like, it's just a sinus infection. And kind of walk us through your thought and then like what you experienced as a partner of someone going through this before Greece and then when you went to Greece and then came home.
Yeah, so we went to the urgent care and she said that she gave him a referral. And I remember calling you being like, what's the deal with this referral? How long should we wait? And I remember being like, should we call her back and make sure this referral is happening? We called, and then they tell you that she was out of town or something. And so she'd get back to you on Sunday. And I think you called again when she was back in town or something like that. Anyway, it was just taking too long. So he did some research and found an ENT on his own and got in with them. And with the vascular nature of it, I was like, okay, well, it's not a polyp. And saying that they're going to refer him to a head and neck specialist, I thought it was more serious than they were letting on. I was like, maybe we shouldn't go to Greece, but if they're giving you the okay, then I guess it's fine. And this was like the beginning of July. We went to Greece. We flew out July 25th.
Mhm.
And, I came back August 3rd. I stayed for like the first for 10 days out there. And I came back home and everyone was like, how was Greece, Lydia? And I was like, it was great. It was amazing. It was so beautiful. But it's hard to enjoy yourself and have a good time on vacation when your person is miserable and can't breathe. And we were sleeping like 3 hours a night because obviously I'm concerned about him, and it's hard to have a good time when your person's uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah, and you don't know what's going on and it's uncertain and you're like, he can't breathe and he's experiencing all these symptoms and it's not getting
Yeah,
better.
you could see the side of his nose that the mass at this point was making his face look warped. Like his nose was bigger on one side than the other because the mass was so big. It was growing so fast.
So after you left Greece and you came back to Florida, what was that experience like? How were things changing?
I think it changed too much because he already really couldn't sleep when I was there, but he definitely couldn't sleep when I left. And so, luckily, with the time change difference, it was pretty reasonable where I was. But I knew that where he was on his side of the world, it was like 3, 4 a.m.
Mhm.
And then he'd get off the ship and go do the things at the ports and stuff. And then he'd text me when he got back. And I'd ask him how long he slept. And he was like, oh, I slept for 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that. And I'm like, dang, well, that's not good. And his saline rinses aren't working. And I was just like, this is not good." And I felt bad for him because he was just getting more miserable and more temperamental by the day, and I felt bad because there was nothing that I could do.
Right. But you did do something because didn't you try to call and get him appointments for when he got back?
Yes, because he didn't have service. He could only do Wi-Fi, so I called the ENT office and booked him an appointment for the day after he was supposed to get back into Jacksonville, and when he got back in the States, I guess they reached out to him and were like, "Hey, we don't even need to see you. You're just gonna go ahead and see the head and neck specialist," which was concerning to me because it's like, okay, if you can't do anything for him, why was he not referred to the head and neck specialist before he went? Were you just like, "Yeah, it's probably fine," when you're not even gonna see him when you come back because you think it's that serious, you know?
Yeah, that is definitely a real concern.
Yeah.
So, Nick, you come home and find out that the ENT doesn't want to see you and you haven't been sleeping and now you're back in Florida. What do you do next?
The the day after he came home, I picked him up, we had a good night's sleep together, and the next day, we went to bed at, like, 10, I wanna say, and Nick woke me up at 11:30ish PM, and he goes, "Pookie, get up, something's wrong." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I'll let you take over 'cause it was your experience, Pookie.
Well, it was like the first night I was actually able to fall asleep for real, and I was woken up in the middle of the night with what I thought was a runny nose, because that happens sometimes during this whole ordeal. I thought it was a runny nose, and I was sleeping with tissue paper next to the bed. And whenever my nose would run, I'd wake up and I'd do some light dabbing and I'd kind of clean up the situation. But this night was different. It was like heavy flow, and even in the dark, I could see this isn't mucus. This must be blood because it looked darker than normal. So I wake up and I go to the bathroom, and I'm having like a major nosebleed. Like, none of my nosebleeds have ever been like this. This was an atomic nosebleed. It was gushing blood. And it really scared me when I saw the volume of blood that was flowing from my nose. It was just overwhelming. Like, I couldn't stop it. There was nothing I could do to slow it down. Just blood pouring blood down the back of my throat, simultaneously, pouring out of my nose. And I began to panic. So I FaceTimed my brother in law, who was a CRNA, say, Alex, something's wrong. This nosebleed is not like the other ones. So I felt bad. I woke him up out of his sleep just so he can look at the situation. I'm showing him the nosebleed and I'm showing him the sink to let him see how much I've lost already. And I said, should I wait 15 minutes for this to stop or what should I do? And he immediately said, oh, no, we can't mess with this. You need to go to the ER right now, which,
Mhm.
didn't help my situation because it made me panic even harder.
Yeah, of course.
So I wake Lydia up. I say, Lydia, we have to go to the ER. I need you to bring me some clothes. Lydia's basically putting my clothes on me while I dangle my face over the sink because at this
Mhm.
point, I'm just pouring blood. And we grabbed like 2 kitchen towels and a roll of toilet paper because I got like an entire wad of toilet paper stuffed up my nose and then kitchen towels underneath that to stop any residual bleeding that passes, because the toilet paper is not stopping the bleeding. It's filling up the toilet paper and it's dripping right through it. That's how much blood there was. And I've never seen that much blood in real life before either. Like that was my blood, extreme volumes of it. And the whole way to the ER, I must have swallowed like a cup of my own blood. It's just shooting down the back of my throat the whole time. And we got to the ER. When I finally get back to be seen and I'm sitting in the chair, the bleeding finally stops. And the doctor comes back and she pulls the tissue paper out of my nose. And you could just see this massive clot of blood. I had tissue paper stuffed up both nostrils because the blood was so much, it was coming out of both sides, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and, I spat out this massive blood clot, and she's like, "You guys were right to come here." I was like, "Would this have stopped on its own?" She was like, "It probably would've. Next time, the move is to just keep your head forward, don't tilt your head back, and to set a timer on your phone for 15 or 20 minutes and just hold your nose closed and let it clot." And she said, "But you were right to come here because when you're having a nosebleed this severe, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop," which I agree.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I panicked because I was like, I've never had a nosebleed like this ever. I've seen people have their noses broken and didn't bleed this much. So it was very scary. And she said, "If this happens again, do what I told you to. And if that doesn't stop it, come see us again and we will stop it. Don't worry."
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, that makes me feel good because basically, no matter how bad it gets, I won't bleed to death, you know? Eventually, a few days later, I did have the appointment with the head and neck specialist. And, my rhinologist was a very young doctor. He graduated from Harvard Medical and had only been practicing medicine for a year. My surgeon was younger than me. He was 33 years old, very kind, Dr. Spay and UF. And he's like, "Yeah, you have I think he called it a hemangioma." And he said, "You have a tumor in your nose." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I have a tumor." He's like,
Hmm.
"Yes." And it looks benign. It doesn't look like it's destroying any of the tissue around it, which is a good sign. Usually, what we do after consultation is wait 30 days to have it surgically removed. And I said, 30 days seems like a long time away. Are we sure about this? And he's like, "This is just protocol." So I'm like, "All right." Well, he did make me feel a lot better because he showed me other people that have had similar situations and theirs were worse and they were totally fine after he removed it. So I was like, all right, I feel a little bit better about this now at least. He made me feel not like my life was in danger because he pretty much said, "This looks benign to me as well. And I'll see you in 30 days and we'll have surgery and we'll get rid of this."
I appreciate that he gave you reassurance, but I want to go back to you were concerned. You're like 30 days. I'm not sleeping. I had this gigantic nosebleed, and 30 days. Like to me, as somebody that cares about you, I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna fly, because like you're living the experience and then to be told, well, it's just protocol when you bring up concern for that. That's one of those things that as a clinician you think like, are we doing things because that's the way we've always done them, or should we be doing things to address our patients' needs? And I know that things got escalated, which you're going to tell in a minute, but I think that's something I need to keep present in my mind as a clinician and really listen to what my patient's experience is and what their needs are. So thank you for bringing that up into this. So after you have this appointment, then what happens? Because I know we're getting close to surgery now, even though he told you it's going to be 30 days.
Right. I was a little shocked to hear that originally. And I was like, well, if this is protocol, I guess I'll stick it out for another month if I can. So Lydia and I go to Ocala to visit my family because I haven't seen them in over a month. And we wanted to go there and spend some time with my little nephew and see my family and all that. And my brother in law sees me in person for the first time since I've gone away. And he's like, "What's going on with your face?" I said, "Oh, I have a tumor in my nose." And he goes, "Well, when are we getting rid of that?" And I said, "In 30 days." And he said, "No, absolutely not." He said, "Give me your phone. We're going to write him a message right now. This needs to be removed immediately." And I said, "Well, obviously, my doctor knows that I would like to have it removed sooner than later, but he said this is protocol." And he's like, "No, what's going on with you right now is this needs to be expedited immediately." Because at this point, I'm like, using painkillers and all kinds of things to get through the day because the situation is escalating to the point where I'm now having severe jaw pain. Um, I've had 3 days of sharp eye pain in my left eye, and on the last day in Ocala, I had ear pain too. So basically, a few of the The left side of my face is not doing too well. Not to mention he was shocked when he saw how far out my nose was bulging.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I tell my doctor all these new symptoms via message in my chart. And when my doctor reads this, he immediately responds back and says, "Okay, we're gonna plan for surgery for September 5th." So he moves me up like immediately because after I told him all my symptoms, he was also concerned. When I originally saw him, I wasn't really having any pain. I was just not sleeping and I wasn't breathing. So
Yeah.
yeah, breathing is very important. I've been getting by all these months with just one nostril. Because of the sharp eye pain and the jaw pain and the ear pain, now he's taking me seriously and now he is also very concerned and he wants to get rid of it too. So the surgery's moved up to September 5th. I never thought I would be so excited to have surgery in my life, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever had surgery?
I mean, I've had my wisdom teeth removed, but nothing like this.
Wow.
Immediately after surgery, I felt like a brand new boy. I was able to breathe again. I felt 100% awesome. I felt great. And I was like, wow, what a strange time in my life that was, you know? I'm thankful that this is over. And, they send the specimen to pathology during the surgery, but they didn't tell my family the results right away. So we all kind of believed that it was just a benign tumor that was removed. And I kind of went on with my life and I didn't even check my chart for maybe 2 or 3 days, 4 days after the surgery. I was totally moving on with my life. I felt like whatever it was, it's over now and I'm moving on. Well,
Yeah. I mean, of course, because you're feeling better.
I can breathe better now than I've ever could have ever. Honestly, I'm able to breathe better than I ever have in my life. So I felt great. And I was like, I'm glad that's over. And that's all we had to do is just do some surgery and now we're good.
Yeah. What was it like for you? I mean, I know the experience of like being able to breathe and everything was awesome and you're like, "Oh, that was a weird time in my life." Little did we know it would come back to be more of a time of your life. What did the surgeon tell you after the surgery? Cuz I know I kind of want you to talk about the cribiform plate and then that he wasn't able to get everything out.
Well, before the surgery, right before I went back to get the tumor removed, he showed me my MRIs and CT scans and said, the tumor has caused some effects, facial structures. There's been some erosion on your cribiform plate at your skull
Mhm.
base. You're missing a little bit on the left side. Maybe it was the pressure, maybe it was the buildup of mucus that I was not able to drain. But because of all that, my left orbital bone had been eroded a little bit, and I've had some cribiform plate erosion as well. That was very shocking to hear. But he reassured me that a lot of people who have lots of sinus issues and nasal polyps, they're also missing their cribiform plates and they live totally normal lives. The cribiform bone is very thin anyway, so it's easy for something like this to happen because of swelling
Mhm.
or pressure and things like this. So that was scary to hear.
It's not normal, but it's an expected finding with masses that cause pressure and this kind of thing. Is that what that was your
Yeah, he made me
understanding?
feel like it's pretty normal for people who have nasal polyps and sinus issues, and they live totally normal lives, and it's not really gonna affect you, and it's not that big of a deal. I still have perfect smell and taste. I had if I lost some, I didn't lose so much so that I lost, my senses, you know? Yeah, so that's pretty
Yeah, that's
cool
awesome.
to know, but, there's also procedures to rebuild it,
Mhm.
and they've pretty much got that down to a science as well. They can definitely repair it. I'm not missing all of it, just a little bit of the left side has been eroded, and,
Okay. Now, as far as the surgery and him getting the tumor out, he had to leave some back. Is that right?
he got 99% of gross tumor removed. So it was basically a debulking surgery. And he said, I left about 1% of it near the skull base because I don't want to cause brain fluid to enter my sinuses. So he left a little tiny bit up near the skull base because it's a sensitive area to work around, especially with some of the cribiform plate being gone.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. You're feeling so much better. And like, you're like,
Yeah, I'm like, all right, whatever you say, doc. I feel great now. So whatever the protocol is for this, we're good. Obviously, I'm not stoked that there's a little bit of residual left over. The pathology results came back the very next day, but like I said, I didn't check my chart until 4 days later, and that was a surprise because randomly I went into my portal to see some of the notes around the surgery. Basically, the results from pathology said malignant and three different types of adjectives that describe cancer cells. So I just copied and pasted these words that he used to describe the specimen in pathology into Google, and it came back teratocarcinosarcoma. It's a very, very rare type of
Yeah.
aggressive, fast moving cancer. I didn't know this at the time. I just saw teratocarcinosarcoma. So I took a screenshot and sent this to my brother-in-law, and I said, "Does this mean that I have cancer?" And my brother-in-law responded back, "That's exactly what this means." So at this point, my whole world came crashing down. Text my doctor, message my doctor on my chart. I say, "What do I do now? What do you want me to do now?" And he said, "At this point, I don't want you to do anything. I'm going to see you tomorrow or the day after, whatever it was, when our schedule was. And I'm going to talk to you in person about how we're going to take care of you."
Yeah, that must have been very overwhelming for you.
Yeah, it wasn't that was not a good time in my life. That was a strange period because, I've gone from never having any medical issues to now being diagnosed with cancer basically overnight.
Lydia texted me what pathology said, and I remember looking at it because she was like, "That doesn't mean cancer, does it, Ma?" And I'm like, "Shit." What she texted me was fragments of malignant tumor with epithelial, neuroepithelial, and mesenchymal components. And I also, not being a cancer specialist, was like, "What does this mean?" I put it into our search at UCSF Health, and it came back exactly what you said, Nick. And what was interesting to me is that it's such a rare, aggressive form of cancer that less than 200 people have been documented as diagnosed with
Less
this.
than 150 people. When I saw my oncologist at UF, he said there's only been like 120 cases documented worldwide with what you got. And we've never seen this. Many doctors will work their entire careers and never see this. So this is so rare. And, that doesn't make you feel very, very good either, you know?
No, that is frightening, actually. So you met with the surgeon, and what did he tell you treatment was going to look like, or what were the next steps for you?
He said to treat rare and aggressive cancers like yours, we do multimodal treatment. We have to utilize surgery, chemo, and radiation simultaneously. We have to hit it from all three sides. That's the type of treatment that shows the best results with this type of thing. So my surgery was a debulking surgery. It was not a cancer surgery. He did not take margins, and that's why we have to go in with radiation and chemo to make sure that we get whatever microscopic cancer cells are floating around. What can be seen with the naked eye was taken out, and it was very successful.
So we've gone from sinus infection to mass in your sinuses to now we have a rare aggressive cancer. What's been the hardest part emotionally about going from healthy guy with a sinus infection to rare cancer diagnosis?
Well, the word cancer in and of itself is a very scary word. And doing research on what I had online made me feel even worse because it just has a very, very poor prognosis. And it's known for its high mortality rates and all these things just added up. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is a death sentence. And I feel like I'm way too young to be taken out by something like this. I just can't believe I'm talking about myself like this right now, you know?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe that you were because you're 35, you're robustly healthy. I mean, you go to the gym, you have a great physique, you're busy all the time doing everything. You're in the prime of your life essentially.
Yeah, I am very physically active. I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. I feel I got really unlucky and hit the lottery with this one, you know?
Yeah, because there's no true cause. You didn't do anything to get this cancer. It's so rare that there isn't much known about it. And there's nothing that you did to get it. It's not like you're smoking 12 packs of cigarettes a day for 20 years or something. It's surprise, here's a rare cancer.
Yeah. When I talked to my oncologist down at UF, I said, what did I do? What could have caused this? Was it the drinking? Was it the before all this, I was a weed smoker, but I wasn't smoking
Mhm.
massive quantities. I was kind of a bong guy, one and done type smoker. I'm thinking, was it the lack of sleep? Because I've
Mhm.
always had a pretty bad sleep schedule. I like to stay up late and I still like to wake up decently early. But I've always felt rested, so I didn't really think that I was super
Yeah.
sleep deprived. And he said to me, "You really can't beat yourself up about your lifestyle choices because, what did all the children in the waiting room deserve to get their cancer?" And I said, "You're right. I don't know." And he said, "Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a genetic thing. You're very unlucky that you got this rare type of cancer, but Don't be hard on yourself. The waiting room is full of babies, and they're all going through it too. What have they done to deserve this? And I'm just like, you're so right. I don't understand it.
Yeah, he's right. It's not something you did to yourself. It's just what happened, and sometimes things like this happen. So I know you saw an oncologist at UF Health, but because this is such a rare form of cancer that not many people have seen, you made the decision to get treatment at a different facility.
And I was hoping that I could take care of it either at UF or that maybe I could be transferred to Mayo Clinic, which is right down the road from where I live. And my
Right.
brother-in-law and my sister would not accept that. They said, "No, we really, really, really want you to go to the best cancer clinics in the country. Right now, you have two options, and you can make the choice between MD Anderson in Houston, Texas, or Sloan Kettering in New York, because they specialize in rare cancers." We ended
Yeah.
up going to Sloan Kettering in New York because I have two cousins who work at MSK, and they had already shared my
Mhm.
pathology results with many of the doctors at Sloan, the head and neck specialists, and they've seen it before. And they were like, "Oh, we need to get him on this and that immediately." Even though I wasn't a patient, they already knew a little bit about my pathology. They have some experience with treating this cancer, and MD Anderson wasn't really willing to talk to me or give me any details about anything because I wasn't a patient there yet. I had to upgrade my insurance to go out of state to be seen by these places. Sloan was acting much faster because I already
Mhm.
had family there. So I got my foot in the door like that.
Yeah, that's really great, and I'm glad that you're going up there to get treatment. I want to transition to Lydia. Thank you for sharing so openly. Lydia, I want to talk to you because a diagnosis like this doesn't just affect the person going through it, it deeply affects all the people who love them. So you, Nick's family, our family, and as Nick's partner, you've been walking this journey alongside him. What has this experience been for you? Did you feel the same frustration when providers dismissed his concerns?
Yes, it's very frustrating to see your person going through something and feel like nobody's taking it seriously. And I remember before we left for Greece, I had looked up his nose and you could see his little mass at the time and I was like, "Okay, okay." And then when he came back from Greece, I looked up his nose again and I was mortified because it had grown so much. It had come down so much further and I'm like, "Why did they tell you you could go to Greece?" Like, you I feel like they can't even make that decision if they haven't biopsied, like, just to say something doesn't look cancerous or something like that, you don't know for sure, so how can you confidently tell somebody that and let the tumor grow aggressively over the next month while he's in a different country not sleeping? And then, I don't know, I just feel like it could have been avoided had more due diligence been done.
Yeah, I think this is an example of if you just look at Nick on the outside, he's robustly healthy. He's 35 years old. Like, yeah, nothing bad's going to happen to him, right? But then he's like, "Hey, I have these symptoms." And then there's this mass and they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's okay." And as a provider myself, I don't deal with these kinds of things, but I can see where they would be like, "Yeah, it's probably okay for you to go." It was okay for him to go, but could we have taken
Well,
it out
yeah,
sooner?
but, like, also the fact that I scheduled him an appointment for him to come back, but for them to call him as soon as he gets back into the country and be like, "We can't even see you because we can't help you from this point further." Why did you not refer him to the head and neck specialist before he went and let them make that call if you can't do help him anymore?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, has this experience changed the way you think about healthcare and self advocacy?
I'm really glad for his family and everything being so supportive and trying to get him the best of the best care because he is the best of the best Pookie. So he has to get the best of the best care that can be provided for him.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm proud of you both, like just how you're navigating this because there have been some times when stuff that you've told me, I've just been like, this situation is grave. Like, it's very serious. And you guys are just like, all right, we're just going to deal with it. And Nick reaching out to his family and everybody that's supporting him. And then you reaching out to me and saying, hey, mom, something isn't right here. What do we need to do? Like, you never just settled for anything. And I'm very proud of you both for that.
Thank you.
So, how are you supporting Nick day to day, and how are you also taking care of yourself?
Not much has changed, honestly, since then. We still do the same things that brought us together when we initially found each other. We play music together, we sing and play guitar, we go on walks, we work out together, we pray every night, we do our little devotions, and yeah, we're just each other's best friends. And that's been like that since the beginning. So it will continue to be. You gotta be there for your person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you, because you're my daughter, so we talk. I know that you're practicing a lot of self-care and a lot of self-compassion, and also staying connected with Nick and communicating when things aren't easy. And I think that those are both really important things.
Staying connected, it's probably the walks and eating meals together and playing music together. And he's teaching me chess. So playing chess together has been another one that keeps us close and connected.
Good. So, what would you want other partners, friends, or family members to know about supporting a loved one with a new cancer diagnosis? Lydia, you answer this first, but then I also want Nick's input on this because he's the one that's
Precisely.
diagnosed with
That's a
cancer.
great talking point. He's the one dealing with cancer, not anybody else. So, loved ones, people close to him need to be strong because he has enough on his plate. And I don't think, actually, you know what? I know it's not his
Mhm.
responsibility to console anybody else or make somebody else feel better because they're sad about his diagnosis. Imagine how he feels.
Exactly. And no one else is responsible for anyone else's feelings but their own.
I would say that the most important thing is to be strong for them and have confidence, have faith. I've ever since he got this diagnosis, I'm like, you're fine. You are gonna crush this. You are so healthy and you are so strong and so resilient and like you're gonna crush it. I have no doubt in my mind that he's gonna come out on the other side of this and to just have another cool notch in his belt. Like, oh, cool, I'm a great musician. Oh, and I just beat cancer. So there's that. I'm looking at it from a character development standpoint. I think this is just gonna add to his lore and make him cooler overall, and it pretty much I think everyone just needs to be positive. There's no need for negativity, there's no need for worry. We have to trust, we have to have faith. Nick's strong and he's gonna crush it, and it's not about anybody else except for Nick. So, I think that's the most important thing is those who are close to him need to be strong for him, and he has a lot going on. He doesn't need to deal with anybody else's emotions or, like I said, consoling anybody else or soothing anybody else because he's trying to do that for himself. And so that's what we all need to be trying to do for him.
Yeah, I hear that. Nick, do you have anything to add to that?
I think staying positive, staying distracted, still doing the things that you love that make you happy. I'm still playing lots of guitar. I'm still playing lots of chess. I still try to get a workout in, trying to maintain my diet, um, staying off the internet because unless you're doing real good research, all the stuff on the surface just sounds very dreary and sad and deadly. So I wouldn't do that. Don't talk to Chat GPT too much because they don't really know, you know. A lot of the pain that I felt in the beginning was
Yeah.
because there's so little information on this, and just talking to AI about it's not going to
Hmm.
make you feel any better. Especially if you have a rare situation like mine where there's a very poor prognosis.
There's not a lot of information out there about it either because there haven't been that many cases. So you have to take all that with a grain of salt and consult an actual medical provider about it because otherwise like you said, you're going to end up down a rabbit hole of misery.
I'm directly responsible for a lot of the original sadness because I didn't really know where to look, or really all I wanted was to see some survival stories. And I've got some really smart friends who are really actually good at doing this type of research. And they did send me many survival stories and many hopeful stories around my case that they're just not on the front page of Google. You have to like really dig into the medical journals and stuff like that to see that there is absolutely survivors of this type of cancer. There's absolutely positive, hopeful stories, and people younger than me have lived through it, and people much, much older than me have also survived. So really, that's all I needed at first. I was just like, can I beat this? And my friend Jeff is such a brilliant, brilliant guy. Um, He's like, dude, there's many survivors. This dude would send me just cases of the same cancer that were much more advanced than mine, that were people have been living with this for 2 or 3 years, and it was absolutely destroying their faces. And they made full recoveries. So that made me feel like I can beat it too. We didn't let it get as bad as some people did. Like I said, I've only had the tumor in my face for 4 months before we had it taken out, which is relatively early compared to a lot
Hmm.
of these other cases. And they still survived. They still beat it and they're still in remission, or some of them are cured. So that gave me lots of hope, you know?
Yeah. And that was going to be my next question. What gives you hope right now as you both prepare for Sloan?
Well, what gives me hope right now is that I will be in the best hands possible. Sloan is one of the best in the world at what they do. It's not just one or two doctors working on my case, it's an entire team. It's a massive research team, it's an entire board. Of surgeons, oncologists, radiation specialists, and these people, they strategize in a boardroom over your case, and they all are going to voice their concerns and their ideas for attacking this. And it's really good to feel like you have a whole team of people who are extremely qualified. My friend Jeff said it best: if you want to go to the moon, you need to use NASA. So that's what we're doing. So I've got many
Yeah.
doctors, many brilliant minds looking into my case, and it gives me lots of hope. And like I said, the survival stories, there are some. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm a prime candidate for survival because I am young and healthy and very active and mentally strong. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. And you have a great support system and you have a fantastic partner.
Absolutely. And she's been monumental. She's never been shaken. She's always been very positive that we're going to beat this. She hasn't shed a single tear. She's like, "You're going to be fine. You're absolutely going to be fine. I'm not even worried. Like, you're not most people. You are exceptional, and this is just going to be like she said, a part of your lore, a part of your character development." I love that. I think that's so funny. And
I do too.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey so far. And I'm looking forward to hearing what we learn when you go to Sloan Kettering and how your treatment progresses. I would love to have you back on another episode for an update. And I just appreciate your openness.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of In the Loop with Nadja Wlasiuk. I hope you found today's discussion insightful and empowering. Feel like diving deeper into the topics presented today? Be sure to check out the show notes for references and more helpful information. You can also visit our Substack or Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Remember to stay curious and stay informed. Now you're in the loop.